Welcome back. You're watching Network Africa. I am at Deshawa Josh. You can watch us on youtube.com/channelsweb. And for our viewers outside West Africa, you can watch us live on m.channelstv.com from your laptop or mobile device. You can also download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS, and Windows phones from their respective stores. Volta River Authority, that's VRA, Ghana's main generator and supplier of electricity, is knee-deep in debt. Now, the agency is reportedly owing WAPCO $103 million, as well as Nigeria's NGAS some $78 million, with some other parties in the supply chain owed some undisclosed amount of money. This indebtedness has put the Ghanaian government at loggerheads with Nigeria's NGAS, as NGAS threatened last week to cut Ghana's gas supply if the debts are not paid. Ghana's government has, however, promised to pay $170 million it owes by February 2016. Ghana gets around 25% of its power through gas from Nigeria. The threat by NGAS to reduce supplies by 70% would have made it harder to achieve the government's goal of tackling blackouts and could have raised the cost of supply. Well, to talk more about the gas situation and the short electricity supply in Ghana, I'm being joined by Vivian Loco. She is a Ghanaian journalist with CTFM. Thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, let me ask you, how bad is the electricity situation really? Is it as bad as it is being reported?
Well, let me give you an idea of what is happening here in Ghana. For example, due to the electricity crisis, we've seen a lot of companies shut down. We've seen thousands of workers being laid off every now and then because of the crisis. We've seen most sectors who rely usually on power, for example, the manufacturing sector, go on. Every day we see lots of companies warning they're about to shut down or actually shut down because of the crisis. So this should give you an idea of how serious the crisis is here in Ghana.
I mean, I remember last year, you tried to reach me to ask what is really going on with Nigeria, and I'm like, oh, it means that this situation has been like this since last year. When did it really start getting this bad?
Well, the crisis actually started some 3 years ago, and it gets worse by the day. We've seen we actually in what we call the energy crisis, where we're now running shifts here in Ghana, especially in the capital cities like Kumasi, Takoradi, what have you. So you could have 24 hours of no power or 12 hours of no power. So it's become worse by the day.
Okay, so are there reasons why Volta River Authority appears to be failing at what it used to be very effective as? I mean, Ghana used to be, when you're looking for electricity, when you want 24/7 electricity, the first place that comes to your mind in West Africa is Ghana. In fact, as a matter of fact, there was a point in time that a lot of businesses moved to Ghana from Nigeria. What do you think is going on?
That's right. Now, you mentioned the Volta River Authority. The Volta River Authority had that clout at the time because I would say the environment or the climate was good for it. Time that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had the vision to build the Akosombo Dam, for that matter, for VRA coming into the picture, was because he thought that the dam at the time would last, give us power for generations to come. But two things have had VRA, so we don't see that happening. One is the environment hasn't been good to it. The VRA has about 4 dams to rely on. Currently, 3 of them are not working, so you have just 1. And the weather pattern is not getting any better. It, of course, rains in, let's say, in Accra, but it doesn't rain in the northern region where they need that amount of rainfall to fill the at Akosombo. And secondly, VRA has had issues with its financials. So because it's not able to pay, most of people who take energy from it are not able to pay. It's suffering, so it's not able to pay its debt. Financially, it is struggling, and it's not able to get the power it needs because it relies solely on hydro, which is not, the environment is not helping it to, come up with a part.
So, before I make references to some of the answers you gave to that question, let me ask you, how is this debt crisis currently being received by Ghanaians? Obviously, you're not satisfied, and I can just imagine many are also not very comfortable with the whole turnaround. We understand also that it has become a talking point in the political space. The flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Nana Akufo-Addo, has lambasted President Mahama-led government of the debt crisis, claiming that he would do better. What are you hearing?
Well, of course, the debt problem is a huge problem here in Ghana. The debt level has reached as high as 70% of our GDP. That is serious. The last time we hit about 70% of our GDP, the ratio of debt, was some time ago when President Kufuor was in power, and it led us to become highly indebted country, HIPC. So right now we're having about 90.8 billion cedis in debt. And I'm sure you're well aware that just 2 weeks ago, we went ahead to issue a 1 billion euro bond, which is added to our debt ratio. Just this week, the Bank of Ghana, which is the central bank, also announced that government was going to go ahead to issue another bond, about 1 billion cedis. So we keep piling up the debt. The problem is how we intend to pay this debt, and whether what we are borrowing, we're using it actually to do the projects we say we'll do. For example, most of the debt are being used to refinance debts that we've already accumulated. Some few years back, we issued our first Eurobond. Proceeds from the Eurobond we've just issued are going to be used to finance this debt. It's just a small ratio of this money that will be used for infrastructure projects. So I guess every country has its debt. Well, the question here in Ghana is whether government will use the money it borrows to do the right things. For example, we have power crisis. Will be used to develop our power infrastructure? Our roads are not good. Is it going to use this to get us better roads, get us better health, better education? And most Ghanaians on the streets are not happy with what the money is used for many a time. So the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party is saying when he comes into power, he intends to utilize monies we borrow to do the right thing. But he may suffer a lot of challenges because currently there are so much challenges in the economy. For example, inflation is over 17%. The city is not doing well. The manufacturing sector, the private sector, the banks, they're all struggling. So it will take a while before he's able to correct things. So he's also going to face challenges when he comes in due to what we're seeing now.
So, Vivi, let me just ask you quickly, how do you see this resolved? How do you see this resolved? Because I know that the Ghanaian delegation was in Nigeria to say, look, we're going to pay some amount of money was paid, in advance in order to be able to avert, cutting you off the grid. So that has been mended, but I mean, the problem still persists, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, and I'm sure you're well aware, but last week it was chaotic here in Ghana because of the power crisis, and if Gas has gone ahead to cut gas to Ghana, it would have worsened our power crisis. Now, government has already said they have paid up $10 million, which will cover July, yes. And they've reached an agreement with Gas to pay the rest of the money by February 10th. So we're going to see another tranche of cash wired to Gas in November. But the other problem to this is government is now saying it may increase utility tariffs to offset the debt. Now, already many Ghanaians are not happy about the way utility tariffs keep shooting up. So it's also become a big problem here because people don't actually want to pay more for the utility because, of course, we're going to crisis and paying more. I don't think the crisis will be solved by us paying more. So,
all right.
It will be difficult to convince us to pay more, but it appears that is what we have to do to offset the debt.
All right, then. Vivian Loco there for us. She's a journalist with CTFM. Thank you so much for joining us from Accra, Ghana, giving us the latest on the Ghana gas debt crisis. Thank you. The third term bid of President Denis Sassou Nguesso of Congo may not be a stroll in the park as protesters take to the streets of the capital Brazzaville to register their disapproval. Police fired shots and tear gas at the protesters while they were gathering for a march against the president's third-term ambitions. Waving banners reading "Sassou, get out" and "No to the referendum," protesters gathered in several central neighborhoods in defiance of a government ban on public meetings issued on Monday. Now, President Nguesso's proposed constitutional reform, which will go to a referendum on Sunday, would remove the age limit on the presidency and could also restart the clock on presidential terms. Nguesso, a former military commander, has ruled the oil producer for but 5 years since 1979. Although he is barred from seeking a third term due to age and term limits, the 71-year-old is expected to be a candidate in 2016 during the elections. And as Ivory Coast's presidential elections draw near, President Alassane Ouattara has promised he would push for constitutional reform if he wins re-election this week to scrap a nationality clause that helped drag his West African nation into a decade-long crisis. Heavily favored to win a second term in a presidential election on Sunday. Thanks to a thriving economy, Ouattara says he is determined to remove the nationalist bias from the constitution. Ivory Coast, the world's largest cocoa producer, has long been a magnet for immigrants from neighboring countries. Ivorian nationality became a burning political issue at the heart of the 2002-2003 civil war that divided the country in two for 8 years. Ouattara himself was barred from seeking the presidency over what opponents said were his foreign origins before finally winning elections in 2010. Still ahead on Network Africa. Peace or war? What is going on with the national team, Super Eagles? Yemi Adebayo, Channels TV's sports correspondent, joins me live on Network Africa to explain.